Alright, I've seen enough to be thoroughly impressed and I just had to make a video. There has been a lot of interesting developments in the NBA preseason, and as a basketball fan, this is probably the most excited I've been for an upcoming NBA season in a long time. By far, what's captured my attention the most is the preseason play of Victor Wembanyama. Listen, I know some people like to criticize others for overreacting to events in the preseason, and although I get that criticism, I'm kind of a big believer in the fact that you can have some serious takeaways from how the teams play on the court even in exhibition situations. As a Lakers fan, I know this full well. I remember when the Lakers acquired Dwight Howard and Steve Nash in 2012 to play alongside of Kobe and Pau Gasol. Everyone was hyped for the season, but then the team proceeded to go 0-8 in the preseason, as nothing was working on the court. Everyone was acting as if no one should panic because, quote, it was only preseason. Well, then the regular season began and everything continued to not work, and the team continued to lose. Just a couple years ago, history repeated itself as the Lakers were being hyped up prior to the preseason starting. The preseason began, they sucked, and everyone said not to panic because it's preseason. And lo and behold, they sucked in the regular season yet again. My point is that sometimes it's not an overreaction to come to certain conclusions during the preseason. Sometimes the preseason play on the court is actually a pretty solid indication of what's coming. And I'm telling you today, what's coming is this young man, Victor Wembanyama. I'll humble myself enough to admit that I thought this kid would be good, but I didn't think he would be this good this quickly. Specifically, his ball handling skills and his fundamentals are shining like crazy, and his incredible size and length are just a massive bonus. In his first 2 preseason games, he's averaged 21.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 2 assists on 64% shooting, in only 21 minutes of action per game. In only his first 2 career starts, he's averaging over 36 points in his per 36-minute stats. That's not just the numbers of a breakout rookie, but that's the production levels of an MVP candidate. I'm not saying that this kid is definitely going to maintain that. Very few rookies have been able to make the game look so easy in their first couple of starts. I imagine this kid is going to keep Greg Popovich feeling young for the next 5 years, as I can't possibly see him walking away from the game with this phenom on his roster. Now, as I've talked about in the past, my biggest concern for Wembanyama is his physical health. In a previous video, I talked about the history of top 3 picks who were at least 7 foot 3 inches tall. Basically, every single one of them had their careers cut short due to injuries. With that being said, there is reason to feel like Victor Wembanyama might be the exception to the rule. In the history of the game, I've never seen a player as tall as he is who could move with the same amount of fluidity and agility. I've never seen a 7'4" player who could take guys off the dribble, put the ball between his legs, and consistently hit step-back jumpers as if he's James Harden with an extra 11 inches. The closest player I've seen to this skill set at this size was Ralph Sampson in the 1980s. But if I'm being honest, I think even that is a little generous to Sampson, who didn't quite have dribbling skills as impressive as Victor's. Hell, just look at Thomas Bryant's reaction to Victor's Space Jam dunk. Remember when veteran NBA players have talked about young guys coming into the league and they were so good that it made them feel like they needed to get out of there and retire? Well, that's what Thomas Bryant's face looked like after Wemby just embarrassed the entire defense. If it sounds like I'm geeking out, it's for good reason. This era of NBA basketball is arguably the most talented era we've ever seen, and the future competition just got that much stiffer, with the addition of what I believe is a shoe-in superstar. For goodness sake, this guy called for an alley-oop pass just a step inside of the three-point line, and he converted it for a dunk. Seriously, how many players can do that in the NBA today? Is there even anyone else? Add in the fact that he's already establishing himself as an intimidating rim protector, and you have the recipe for a terrifying two-way monster. I'm not gonna lie, I would feel more concerned about Wembanyama's ability to dominate at the center position if he was a guy who was drafted in the 1990s, where physically strong and powerful centers ruled the paint. I remember all the footage of Victor getting bullied in the paint by stronger kids before he entered the NBA. But the thing is, the modern professional leagues just aren't playing that way anymore. Even the top centers in the game, like Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic, have a very finesse and graceful style to their game. In today's league, we're not worried about Victor having to contain a 350-pound beast like Shaquille O'Neal, but instead, he'll be busy guarding other gangly stretch fives like Kristaps Porzingis. I'm not saying this as a way to slander Victor, but rather I'm acknowledging that the league isn't built to exploit his weaknesses, like it once was in the past. And if anything, this will work in favor of his game and of his production. Based on what I'm seeing from him, and based on how the game is played today, there's simply no reason why he can't start dominating the competition in his very first season in the league. Some might worry about Popovich giving him enough minutes, but I don't see why the coach wouldn't, when he once played Tim Duncan an average of 39 minutes in his very first NBA season. In a way, Popovich has been in a similar situation before with a promising young big man, and in that previous scenario, he worked that big man like an ox, as the rookie Duncan finished the regular season in 13th place overall in minutes per game. Now you could argue that Duncan was older and had more college experience, which is certainly true, but based on what we've seen in the preseason so far, you can't possibly convince me that Wemby isn't fully ready for the NBA competition and ready to produce at a high level, and I'm sure Coach Pop views him the same way. The good news is that there's hardly any pressure on this kid. He's still only 19 years old, and the Spurs have embraced the idea of a rebuild. With this insanely stacked Western Conference, no one is expecting the Spurs to be contenders anytime soon. Victor will have the luxury of being able to protect his health and focus on developing his game at his own natural pace. With all of that being said, I don't think patience is something this kid is worried about, because if these first two games are any indication, the league needs to be preparing itself, because a new unicorn just arrived, and he's not going easy on any of these smaller competitors. So what do you guys think? Am I making too much out of his first two debut games? Or do you agree with me that this kid is basically a shoo-in superstar, assuming he stays healthy? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.